You've probably seen the viral footage of a white fractal nightmare exploding onto a human hand, a video currently breaking algorithms across TikTok and Reels. Most people think they're looking at an alien parasite, but the truth is a calculated execution of high-pressure fluid dynamics. The ribbon worm. This is the ribbon worm, a creature that has spent millions of years perfecting the art of the hydraulic spike. Found primarily in the tropical shallows of the Caribbean, it appears to be nothing more than a discarded shoelace, but inside its body lies the rhynchocoel, a specialized, fluid-filled chamber that functions like a high-pressure cannon. When the worm identifies a target, it doesn't just attack, it initiates a system-wide breach. By contracting its body wall muscles, it spikes internal hydrostatic pressure to a point where its branching proboscis is forced inside out. The deployment takes less than 200 milliseconds, faster than a standard smartphone camera can focus. The web you see is a fractal net dripping with neurotoxic mucus. The toxins flood the prey's nervous system, causing an immediate shutdown of all motor functions. The victim is deactivated before it even registers the impact. Once the immobilization is confirmed, the worm reverses the pressure and drags the meal back into its pharynx. It's a silent, industrial extraction process. But the ribbon worm is a local specialist. The trapjaw ant. When the biological objective shifts to the leaf litter of Central American rainforests, hydraulics become a liability due to their weight. Here, the trapjaw ant has traded fluid pressure for a mechanical latch system known as lambza. These ants don't use muscle power to bite. Chemical muscle contraction is too slow, creating a bottleneck in high-speed combat. Instead, the ant uses its head as a biological crossbow. It preloads massive amounts of energy by deforming its own exoskeleton, locking its mandibles into a high-tension state with a physical internal latch. The trigger hairs are set to a microscopic sensitivity. When touched, the latch slips and the jaws snap shut at 140 miles per hour. A human blink takes about 100 milliseconds. This ant executes its strike in 0.13 milliseconds. It is a speed that makes your car's airbag deployment look sluggish. The acceleration is so violent, reaching thousands of Gs, that if the ant strikes a hard surface, the recoil launches its entire body into the air. It's a tactical retreat powered by a failed strike. But for all its speed, the ant remains a melee fighter, bound by the length of its mandibles. The ballistic salamander. In the high-altitude cloud forests of Central America, the mushroom-tongued salamander solved the problem of reach by decoupling its weaponry from its skeletal frame. While a common frog flicks its tongue using simple muscle contraction, this 3-inch predator utilizes a ballistic capacitor. It shoots its entire hyoid skeleton, the actual bone structure of its throat, directly at its target. This is a collagen-powered recoil event. The salamander spends seconds loading energy into elastic tissues, holding the tension like a sniper with a high-draw compound bow. When released, the bone is launched as a free-flying projectile. The tongue covers 1.5 times the animal's body length in a fraction of a second. Once the bullet adheres to the prey, a secondary set of retractor muscles drags the hardware and the meal back into the skull. It is a long-range, high-speed execution for a predator that refuses to move its feet. However, this ballistic strategy is a luxury of the air. In the dense, crushing depths of the ocean, bones are a liability. The giant squid. 3,000 feet below the surface, where the pressure would flatten a standard shipping container, lives a creature that operates on pure, sustained thrust. The giant squid, reaching lengths of 40 feet, is an underwater locomotive. To move through the viscous darkness of the abyss, it utilizes a high-capacity jet propulsion system. It fills its mantle cavity with water and violently contracts its circular muscles, forcing the volume through a steerable nozzle called the siphon. It is the only known biological engine that has converted its breathing apparatus into a high-performance turbojet. By adjusting the siphon's angle, the squid achieves a zero-turn radius at high speeds. It is a biological factory of motion, patrolling the blackness for targets. But while the squid relies on raw kinetic power, other marine hunters have traded speed for a more surgical, chemical approach to the kill. The cone snail. In the reefs of the Indo-Pacific, the geographic cone snail proves that size is irrelevant when your chemistry is optimized. Hidden within its snout is a hydraulic harpoon, a modified tooth called a radula. When a fish wanders into range, the snail fires this needle with pneumatic force. The trauma isn't the point. The harpoon is a delivery vehicle for a metabolic hack. The venom contains weaponized insulin, inducing instant hypoglycemic shock. The fish doesn't fight. It enters a lethal diabetic coma in less than a second. It is a fraudulent transaction where the snail settles the victim's life debt before the brain can register the breach. Once the target is immobilized, the snail expands its mouth to engulf the victim. It's clinical and 100% effective. But the snail's needle is a one-shot weapon. When a predator is already attacking, you don't need a surgical strike. A pressurized deterrent is required. The horned lizard. In the scrublands of Texas, the horned lizard has mastered the art of selective venous constriction. This 4-inch armored reptile uses a specialized safety valve in its neck to block its own jugular vein. As the heart continues to pump at full capacity, the intraocular pressure in the head spikes. When the load exceeds the structural limit, the capillaries in the eyelids rupture. The result is a stream of toxic blood fired directly into a predator's eyes. The blood is laced with formic acid, turning the lizard's life force into a pressurized chemical spray. Most creatures view crying as a sign of weakness. For this lizard, it's a tactical pressure release that makes the act of being eaten a toxic experience. It's a masterclass in using internal failure to ensure survival. The winter grain mite. On a microscopic scale, hydraulics are used for demolition. The winter grain mite, barely a millimeter long, performs a fracking operation on plant cells. It uses hydraulic pressure to drive its mouthparts into cell walls like a pneumatic jackhammer. Once the breach is confirmed, it injects pectinase to liquefy the internal architecture. It's an oil rig drilling for spinach juice. The mite melts the entire structure and drinks the result through a straw, leaving nothing but a desiccated husk. It's a reminder that every system can be dismantled if you have enough pressure. But even this industrial precision pales in comparison to a predator that operates where physics itself begins to fail. The mantis shrimp. The mantis shrimp is a 6-inch crustacean that launches a nuclear-grade kinetic strike. When its dactyl club swings, it accelerates at 23 meters per second, underwater. The movement is so violent that it creates inertial cavitation. The pressure drops so low that the water literally boils at room temperature, creating vacuum bubbles that collapse a microsecond later to generate a massive shockwave and a flash of light called sonoluminescence. The temperature inside those bubbles briefly reaches 4,700 degrees Kelvin, nearly the surface of the sun. The target shatters before the shrimp's limb even makes physical contact. The shockwave does the work first. He punches so hard that the water catches fire, proving that nature's most effective solutions are found in the absolute mastery of pressure.